lead editor David Burdett.
So, Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy, Redfall, we're at least assuming, God of War Ragnarok, all these Gotham Knights, all these big name games we've got coming out. It's going to be a crazy end of the year. But you know what? It isn't going to matter that much when it comes to sales.
Why not?
Why? Because Modern Warfare 2 is going to shred every single one of them. Because it's already, if you look online, it's already beat the not that it had a lot to work against. It beat the Vanguard reveal in likes in an hour. People want Modern Warfare 2. People are hungry for it. That little teaser video that they did with just the night vision goggle turn on elicited memories of back in 2009 when I was playing Modern Warfare 2, man. This thing is going to sell better than everything this year. People are sleeping on how big Modern Warfare 2 is going to be because when they did Modern Warfare Reboot in 2019, that thing sold faster than any other Call of Duty had. If I'm not mistaken, within 10 months, 40 million copies.
I want to know who's sleeping on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I didn't know anybody was sleeping on this. Call of Duty has been the game that sells every year more than anything else. Vanguard is the outlier. Who is sleeping on Modern Warfare 2? What groups are you in for that to be a thing that you have said?
It's people that just don't get it. People who have watched, who weren't so happy with Black Ops, which was developed in 2 years. So obviously, it still sold gangbusters, but it wasn't going to be as big. And Vanguard, which it's been a very troubled launch for Vanguard, and then everything's gone downhill in sales and stuff. So it makes sense that people are going to be like that, but they're silly. Because Call of Duty is going to sell. Elden Ring may be selling really well. Elden Ring may be the largest seller, maybe one of the largest sellers this year. It won't be by the end of the year. Call of Duty will most likely pass it within a couple of weeks to a month.
If people are sleeping on it, they're missing a lot of context. Editor Noah Ansaldua.
Apex Legends is about to have the best season it's ever had, or at least for a long, long time. And I think the evidence is mounting that point is correct, because you look at the new legend coming. His name's Newcastle. He's like Bangalore's brother. I'm not getting into the lore stuff, but the big thing happening is the ranked system is getting a big overhaul.
Nice.
So the problem right now is that teams aren't really incentivized to actually help each other get kills. Instead, it's on like an individual kill point system. So the more kills and assists you get per match, the higher your placement is, or like the more that factors into your ranked point placement at the end. So you can get first place and like 5 kills or 5 kill points and you'd be fine. Or you can get like 7th place and like 10 kill points and you also have max ranked points at the end. So it doesn't incentivize actually playing the Battle Royale like you would play a Battle Royale like at present. And I am really hoping that it's going to soon. Also, another interesting thing is that it's going to add demotion. So you can now fall through ranks, which is something that Apex has needed for a long time, because you'll get to like Plat 3 and you'll realize that you're just playing up against a bunch of other Plat 3 people who are hard stuck, and because of that, they don't know how to play the game and they just ape everyone, and it ruins the experience because they're not playing the game like how, you know, someone who was actually Plat 1 or like Diamond actually would. So I'm really excited for these changes. It's probably going to make the game harder for me, but that only makes it easier to get better. So I'm all for it. I can't wait.
Improved ranked systems are always fantastic. My name is Anthony Shelton, YouTube content creator and writer at Gaming Trend. I am going to solve game preservation right now for Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Here's what you do. If you are those 3 companies, you build a separate website. On that website, you put your emulations, not so people can download it, but you allow people to use the emulations and play your games on that website. And then you charge a subscription fee to play the games on that website. That's all you need to do. If Google Stadia can play 4K games at 30 frames, 60 frames per second, 1080p games at 60 frames per second, then certainly we can play megabyte-sized games on our browsers. This is what needs to be done. Instead of putting all the architecture on your consoles, no. Stop trying to combine all of that. Use the internet. That's what it's for. If all the people who have bought these emulators, or not bought, but created these emulators are able to distribute these emulators and distribute these ROMs over the internet, and we can play these games on our computers, then certainly Nintendo, Sony, and even Microsoft could put their emulators in some form or fashion on the internet, not so we can download it, but certainly so we can play through the browsers. I feel like that's a fantastic idea. I don't know why neither of them have done anything like this. I have solved game preservation.
I remember a few years back, there was like a website called player.org or .net or something, and it was just Game Boy emulation, and you could like have save states linked to your account, and that would be so nice, especially for like old Game Boy Advance games at this point, to have like an official thing like that. Be awesome.
I'm telling you, it's the way to go. Can you imagine just being able to hop onto your browser, log into your site, and play some GameCube games? It's fantastic. All right, let's get into our trending news. Bungie announced Halo Infinite Season 2 will last another 6 months. Here's what's going to come in that Season 2. It will include 2 new maps, one for Arena, one for Big Team Battle, 3 game modes, King of the Hill, Land Grab, and Last Spartan Standing, 2 narrative events, continued with the Fracture Tenrai event, online campaign co-op, campaign mission replay, and Forge open beta. Noah, how much trouble is 343's multiplayer in?
I'd say it's in a pretty good amount of trouble. I know that there's a lot of, pro Halo players who are really sick of where it's at right now. I know that there's a lot of people who are my friends who would typically be all into Halo Infinite, especially right now, like when Destiny's like dying down. My friends would like be in that 100% of the time, and they're just not right now because they don't think the content's there, and I don't think that the content's there for Season 2 either. I think that those modes are going to be a nice thing to hop into. Let's see what's going on. Let's see how these modes play in Halo Infinite Sandbox, and I think that people will play for like a few weeks, but after that, I don't see people staying on for the next 6 months. So I think multiplayer at face value is in a big amount of trouble right now. Yeah, and I'll wait to get into some of the other issues once those come up.
All right, David, how much trouble do you think 343's multiplayer is in?
They're in a huge amount of trouble. It's a packed space. Admittedly, not as packed when it comes to 6v6 or what 4v4 shooters goes. But it's a packed space, the free-to-play space. You've got to command attention. It's not enough to just exist there and be good at doing something. You have to grab people. You have to find a way. Easiest way to do that is content. When we go through we will be almost a year into launch by the time Halo gets more than 2 additional maps. 1 map in one mode, 1 map in another mode. A whole year into its cycle, and it's missing that. Right now, if you look on Steam charts, there are, as of 6 minutes ago, 8,000 people playing it right now on Steam. If you want to grab mindshare, that's not how you do it. They are, as a free game, at number 12 right now on the most played games on Microsoft. The other free games that are above them are Fortnite, Warzone, Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Roblox. You've got to do more to grab people. I logged on to Call of Duty today, getting all the kind of stuff set, the new seasons there, new battle pass. I am a little bit disappointed because there aren't a lot of specific new content like maps. There's one new map that we've gotten, not good for competitive. They did adjust one of the older maps so that it works in a new mode. So I technically got a new map in ranked, even though it's in the same map, just new mode to play on it. So that's fine, but if I'm upset with it, I look in the store, it tells me that there's a countdown for the battle pass, how many days. Guess how many days I have to wait for the possibility of new content? 56 days. Not even 2 months, and I have new content waiting for me. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but the turnaround on content is how you command the space. Fortnite's doing it because they constantly have something new going on. They constantly have something big going on. Warzone, people hate it and they're still playing it. Why? Because it could be better in a month from now because they keep doing new updates for things. People love Apex Legends. They've been playing the same maps and stuff, which that's a whole nother argument of itself of an arena shooter, a multiplayer shooter versus a battle royale, because those are two very different things. So it makes sense that you're going to have a lot more of the map. But content is how you command the space. They're not doing that right now. And if you are planning for this to exist for 10 years, you have to do more because you need players to exist for that kind of a time frame.
All right, here's my answer. How much trouble is 343's multiplayer in? Not much yet. And the reason why it's not much yet is because a lot of people are interested in drip feed content. That's what they want. A little update here, a little update here. I shop at Costco. Give me bulk. I want a lot at one time. That can satisfy me for a little while. Most of this content will last over the course of 3 months. If you look at what Fortnite is now, that's not what it was before. You got one kind of update every season. That season was 3 months. In the first 3 months, you're going to get everything that I named except for the Forge Open Beta. In the next 3 months, all you're going to get is the Forge Open Beta. That's basically the early Fortnite model. You got one little change, and that was going to last you for that 3 months. This is the same model. The problem is it's just a stretch over 6 months. Is that 6 months a problem? Absolutely. It should not be 6 months. Those seasons should be 6 months. But what people are looking for is drip feed. No, this is fine. Over the course of an entire year, this matches at least the decent first years of some of the bigger games. Apex, Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege is not even in that equation. No Man's Sky, absolutely out of that equation. This is better than that, what it had its first year, and it launched with absolutely virtually nothing that it was supposed to have. The problem here is that Halo Infinite didn't launch with much. If it launched with more maps, if it launched with more modes, most people would be complaining just about the length of the season, not necessarily the content included in each season. But because there's not much to do, because there was not much to play with in the first place, now it's a bigger problem. That's the root. And if we look at it from that root perspective, then we understand, yes, this is why this is a bigger problem. But the content, the amount of content in this first year is not abysmal. Under no stretch of the imagination.
Wait, go ahead. You're muted, David.
You're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just going to say then, so shouldn't we change the how much trouble are they in to how much more trouble are they in? Because it sounds like they're just in really a bunch of trouble because they were already in a bunch of trouble. So this is just icing on the cake at this point, because somehow with being an absolute trash fest, Call of Duty launched 20 maps. 16.
Call of Duty is now a live service game.
Call of Duty at this point pretty much is a live service game, though, because they release free new content all the time. If we go
I think that game is more closer to the Overwatch model, which is a paid full game and then added content later, which is a live service element. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it is not. I didn't mean to say it's not live service. What I'm saying is it's not a free-to-play live service game in the same way Apex Legends and Fortnite and what Rainbow Six Siege is now, and in some ways what Destiny 2 is now.
Well, Siege is still paid, though. Siege is not free to play. Siege would be closer to Call of Duty at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing is Halo is going to be compared to Call of Duty or Rainbow Six more than it's going to be compared to Fortnite and all these others.
Then it
because
should be.
It's the genre of game that it is. It's not a battle royale. If they're building their content like it's a battle royale, though, it's not the same kind of gameplay. I spawn into this humongous map and I play it for a while, try to stay alive. That's a huge difference between I spawn in and try to get 50 kills first in 15 minutes.
But it's still free to play multiplayer live service game.
But then it's just the cost of it that we're factoring in. If we're just going on cost, then it's exactly the same as Roblox. Why is it getting beat by Roblox? Roblox has more content than Halo. If we're going on cost, on free to play, it's a live service game.
Other people create content for Roblox, so of course it's going to have more.
Yeah. But it's still, I'm just saying, if we're going in live service, then if we're pointing as it is a live service, I'm pointing more towards it in the sense of gamers who are going to play these are going to look at other games that are similar in the way it plays compared to, like, when I think Halo, I don't think Fortnite. I think Call of Duty. I think Battlefield. I think Rainbow Six.
If Halo Infinite launched in a similar fashion as Halo 5 did, then I could see that comparison, but it didn't. They were willing to push back the release of Halo Infinite multiplayer, which I think they should have actually, and release the campaign without the multiplayer at all. But they ended up releasing it before the campaign. So these are two separate entities under the same name. So that's how they're treating it, which is no different than, I guess in some ways, Destiny a little bit, but Apex Legends, or I guess no, more so Overwatch. But even then, Overwatch is just one package. They're literally separating campaign from multiplayer, and that's the distinction there. Call of Duty is what it's always been. It's going to release as this full package. That's the way Call of Duty has always been sold. This is not the way Halo Infinite is being sold at this point, and so it's hard to judge Halo Infinite multiplayer under the same manner as Call of Duty when its model is more closer to Fortnite and Apex Legends.
Then they're in a bunch of trouble because they completely misjudged their model because players are looking at it that way. Players are going to look at it in that way. That's more, fair. I guess, probably what I'm looking at. We do see the other side, can see the other side of things. Players don't, and it's showing up right now on charts. Because if they wanted to make a real ding in the space, we know people are going to play it on Xbox. That's automatic. Halo is Xbox. People are going to play it on Xbox. They don't have any presence on Steam at this point. And that should be a much bigger market. Will some of these seasons help them? Yes. But the fact that it started at like 250,000 peak, they lost. I mean, you're at 5%. And that's actually high of a number. So
no, go ahead. I know you.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry, buddy.
I just think that this season 2, even if it was like a season 2 and a season 3, and season 3 was Forge open beta, go crazy, do whatever you want in Forge, and that's what we're going to do this for these 3 months. That content would not satisfy me in any way, and I don't think that it's fair to compare year 1 of Halo Infinite to year 1 of Apex, because I think if you compare year 1 of Halo Infinite to year 1 of Apex, you're going to see a lot, like way more content year 1 of Apex than Halo Infinite ever will have in the first year.
Agreed.
And I don't think that it's flattering to Halo Infinite to compare the first year of Halo Infinite's live service to really any of those free-to-play live service games that you mentioned, because when you compare it, the live service doesn't seem to be tailored to the launch state of the game as much as it needs to be, because it dropped with 10 maps, right? And then 3 of those maps were big team battle maps. So for arena players, you have 7 maps to really dig into. And one of those is like a one flag mode thing where it's only like tied to one mode that you can even play, really.
Yeah.
So
such a garbage mode.
You get like 6 maps, and of those 6, you're not going to like all 6, right? No one player is going to like all 6, and no one player is going to think, oh, all 6 maps of these are great. Which means you need a way to shake that up, and I do not see one more map in the Arenas playlist and one more map in the Big Team Battles playlist as doing that. And also, okay, you've been playing on the same 3 Big Team Battles maps if you're a Big Teams Battles like guy, if that's your bag. which on PC I'm definitely not because the game hardly even runs for me on PC. I haven't even bothered to check later, like past like January, February. But
Yep.
even then, the stability in the game was just not there for me on PC, even in arenas sometimes. Like I went home and I played on my Xbox One X, and I was like, "Dang, this game actually runs. That's kind of cool." But that's kind of besides the point. It's just that I feel like this game has burned so many people and shown them that hey, we're not going to have that much variety in this game for a while, and that's kind of still the messaging right now. Like even in the season 2 live stream, that I was watching yesterday, where they kind of talk about what's going to happen. They talk about how painful it is for them to put out this roadmap, how important it is to maintain the transparency, even if it's hard discussion that they're going to open up themselves up to. And I think that they know that this is not good. And I think that we should be able to agree with them at least on that. I do want to say though that these drop pods that they're talking about for season 2 sound interesting at the very least, and they might be something. But also the way that they talk about them as being monthly, that doesn't really excite me. Especially when they say that they can have content, they can have features, or they can have bug fixes. It doesn't make it sound like, oh, there's going to be something meaningful in there. And if there was, I feel like they would talk about it at least a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this year one is not going to be a memorable one. And if so, it will be remembered for being a bad year of Halo. Not the worst, because there have been worse, but certainly not a great one.
Well, and in
I do agree.
support of
6
what
maps
you're-
doesn't. Oh, go ahead, David.
I was just gonna say, in support of what Noah's saying as well, with like say Apex, when people are spawning into a map on a battle royale, they expect to be spawning into the map. That's just the way the game works, is to have one map. That's not what you expect when you play arena shooters, is to only have a very condensed amount of maps. You expect a good selection.
Yeah, both of you bring up the point I made. It launched with too little. That's the root of the problem. Not that there isn't enough content. There's been enough content in terms of this first year. The problem is that the seasons are 6 months. That is not the norm. That is a problem. I am disappointed the season is 6 months. That's a long time. I've stopped playing Halo Infinite. Not necessarily because the season is 6 months, but mostly because of the matchmaking issues, but partly because the season is 6 months. So I 100% agree with that. But the problem isn't the content. The problem is a combination of long seasons and not enough launched with in the first place. If you had 20 maps, even if they were classic maps, 20 maps, 10 modes, some way to play a mixture of all of them, choose what you want, somewhat similar to how they've done Halo game modes in the past, this wouldn't be as big of an issue. The issue is not enough launched with in the first place, seasons too long, and then, actually, not enough to look forward to. Forge Open Beta, yeah, I'm not a big Forge person myself. I look forward to playing what people create. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to creating anything, but it's still going to take time for those creations to come to fruition. So, people are going to be practicing in their Halo 5, but it's still going to be a whole different Forge system. So they're going to have to figure out how to recreate whatever they want to create in Forge. It's going to take time. That's a problem. When we talk about a live service burning people, though, I talk all the time about how Destiny has burned me. And guess what? I bought the Witch Queen, and I bought into the seasons, and I'm going to buy into the rest of the seasons. Why? Because at some point, I get burned by Destiny as I'm playing it, but when something happens that interests me, I come back. Overwatch did the same thing. Sometimes I stopped playing Overwatch, either because I got bored with it or because I wanted to go play something else. Something big happens, I'm going back to play Overwatch. Live service games are not meant to keep players 100% of the time. It is impossible. You are competing against game types, BRs for example, that are what's in. This is what's trending. Arena shooters are not what's trending. Call of Duty is an exception because it's just what people have been playing for so long. It's what they loved. Halo has been going up and down for a long time. That style of arena shooter is not popular anymore. So it is no surprise to me that Halo Infinite has 8,000 players on Steam. However, they bring something that is big, whether it's a BR or a collection of modes, a big drop pod of maps. It's going to bring players back. And the players who want to play Halo Infinite are going to continue to play Halo Infinite. And those who dropped off, like myself, will go back to playing Halo Infinite. That's how live service games work. It's not meant to keep hundreds of thousands of players all the time, not for everyone. The reason why Fortnite, Apex, and Destiny 2 keep the amount of players that they have, and mind you, Destiny 2 drops off big also, especially after the expansion hype dies down. They release something big, everybody comes flocking back. Apex Legends and Fortnite, they stay big because that's what's trending right now. That's what everybody loves to play. You can't really compete with that if you're Halo Infinite. It doesn't matter what you do. You could have had 20 maps, 15 modes, still going to have a steep drop off. It's not going to compete with Apex and Fortnite. It's just not. So that expectation, if you're 343, is not even a thing if you're thinking about it from a business perspective. Drop pods, I always feel like they're going to be smaller editions. I would hope they're bigger, but I never got the impression that those things are going to be big. I think the reason why they said drop pods is because drop pods are small. So they only have one person per the drop pod if you're ODST, Halo kind of lore. So I don't think those were meant to be like big editions. I think the big editions are going to be the stuff that, they advertise that.
Yep. And I guess I'm sure we can all say of a surety, the reason a lot of us are so disappointed in all of this is because the base game is a lot of fun and it's really good.
It is.
I've said it before that I think that this is the best shooter to come out since Modern Warfare Reboot. It's been one of the cleanest ones to come out since then, and that's the thing. You just want more of it. That's why there's a problem, is because you want to play it more,
agree.
And there's just not anything there.
I 100%
I'm just
agree.
I think I'm the most confused because they just had so much time to put these plans into place, and I even heard reports that they even had a lot of these seasons ready, like planned out, ready. So it's just disappointing to see what are you doing behind the scenes that's got you in this mess.
This is why live service is hard, because game development fluctuates. If we were sitting in the office with a bunch of developers and watching them work, you would see so many iterations over time. They have this idea and they think it's going to work, and then they start developing it. It's like, ooh, this isn't working out as well as we thought. I imagine something similar has happened with 343. They had their seasons planned, and then they have everything going on and going, I don't actually think this is going to work out as well as we thought. And remember what I mentioned in a couple of episodes ago, it seems like the live service team that creates the battle pass content and like the business model aspect of it is separate from the sandbox multiplayer team. And it didn't seem like they gelled that much during the development. So maybe that was an issue too. I can't confirm that, but based on what the things I've heard from Staten, it seems, and you can look up these words. It's not like I heard personally, but it seems like that was an issue.
Yep. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of people who don't know what they're doing over there, because they have one of the biggest workforces at 343 in the industry, and they're struggling. And I get that everybody can struggle. That's not an indictment on just them specifically, because a lot of people, the fact that Vanguard wasn't a absolute train wreck out the gate is incredible. Like, it should have been way worse of a state than it actually launched. But you've got so many people working on this game. It feels like you should be making more out of what you're doing.
I agree. And the one thing I will say about 343, they don't launch games very well, but they do fix them really well. If you look at what Halo the Master Chief Collection started as, abysmal. If you look at what it is now, a must buy. I think they're just a team that is better at fixing things than actually launching games.
You're just hoping it works,
like.
Halo 5 didn't get necessarily a lot better.
No, but their biggest problems were in Warzone, not necessarily the main game. The campaign, not great in my opinion, but Warzone was not a great mode, and it got better over time, to be fair to them. All right, Overwatch 2 has a real scoreboard now. The beta is 3 days old, and that is one of the biggest changes. You can now see your stats as well as your team stats and the other team's stats as well, versus in original Overwatch, you could only see your stats. David, it's a beta, but should Overwatch keep this type of scoreboard?
Considering the style that it feels like they're going for with Overwatch 2, I think it's fine. They are very much, it feels like, leaning into the more casual audience, because admittedly, Overwatch had very broad appeal. I absolutely loved the original Overwatch. But I do understand, like, couldn't you still see who was on the previous scoreboard? It's been a second since I played. Couldn't you still see who was like gold and who was bronze, silver and bronze?
You can see on your stats.
Your team, right?
You can see your team.
Okay.
If you had gold limbs or silver or bronze, that's the information that you saw. But you couldn't see who else had it unless somebody stated, I have gold, which
it must have just been, that's what I'm thinking of, is just my team calling out what they were doing. It's obvious they're going for heavy engagements with this game. Why? They got rid of a tank. They want this to be brawl heavy. They made Doomfist a tank. They want you smacking each other like crazy. How do you keep that kind of stuff going? You start creating rivalries. How do you do rivalries right? You stick up a scoreboard so that you can see that dude who just killed you 4 times is at 20 kills and you're down here at like 7. So then you're brawling. They want these to be punch versus punch kind of stuff. I think it's fine. It'll work for the game, especially the way that they're going with it. And it's obviously working because a lot of people on that first day, they broke their... I know some of it was people want to watch them play the beta, which I haven't got my chance to actually play yet. But they had over 1 million people watching Overwatch 2 that day. Broke their record. They're doing something right with it.
Noah, do you think they should keep the scoreboard the way it is?
I would say yeah, because I didn't really think about toxicity based on scoreboard things until like reading that article and then reading sort of your prompts. But I would say to like negate some toxicity, if you just want to play the game and like have some fun for a little bit, then maybe like an opt-in or opt-out system would be an interesting thing for them to pursue, so that you don't have to like get berated for like bottom fragging, especially when maybe kills don't really matter so much if you're playing a healer or something like that. But also I think that is something that players would keep in mind when looking at the scoreboard and saying, oh, you didn't have any kills, but you're playing Mercy, so like why would you? Which but I think the scoreboard is nice because you do get to see more detailed things about how everyone played in the game. So if you are working with a team that is like focused on getting constructive feedback to everyone and like doing better and improving as a team, then that's really nice. And I think in a competitive game like Overwatch, you should probably have that scoreboard to begin with. So I think that's a good improvement, like a good addition to the game overall. But for the people that are scared of like the toxicity, maybe an opt-in system would be great, like just a toggle real quick before every game.
Just to clarify, the scoreboard shows your kills, your deaths, your assists, and damage dealt. And then you see your individual stats like classic Overwatch. So you won't see how much Mercy has healed. Only you can see how much you have healed. So that's how that works. I don't know if that changes your opinions on anything.
No, I think it kind of stays the same. Like the scoreboard can be useful for, improving where certain people need to improve, but obviously you wouldn't say. I don't know. I still feel like that kind of stands.
I'm going to say with it needs to stay. Overwatch is a competitive game. At its core, that's what it is. They've built a league around it. It's a competitive game. If Overwatch is trying to negate toxicity, there was toxicity before the scoreboard existed. So might as well give as much information as possible per player so that way they can make the most informed decisions, at least for the ones who want to make informed decisions. So that way you can have as much success as possible. I don't see this as a problem. Toxic people are going to remain toxic. Yep. But if Blizzard does want to combat some of that toxicity anyway, then a system like what Noah said could work. I would say maybe take it out of quick play, maybe, and only leave it in competitive where you can have all that information available. That could be an option. Otherwise, no, give us information. It is a competitive game. It is a game where you work with teams. You need as much information as possible. Every other competitive game gives you that kind of information. It was always weird that Overwatch withheld that kind of information, which then only created more confusion for a lot of people because they didn't know who was doing better, who was not doing as much. And it's a chaotic game, so it's hard for especially lower level players to survey what's happening on the field and interpret that information into what the scoreboard is saying based on your information, what's available on your scoreboard. So it just created its own version of toxicity that was really annoying to deal with. So I'm glad they're adding more information. I think it's going to balance out. I think it's going to be the same amount of toxicity that you've had, except, the people who now have more information will just talk more. And, the people who needed the information will be able to help their teammates more. You'll be able to make adjustments better. I do think it's an interesting point on the psychology part that you brought up, David. The trying to create brawls between players. I thought that was an interesting point. I do think that might be part of it, actually. Unlike in Battlefield, where the scoreboard was important because you wanted to see how you stack up with your teammates, whether it's 32 or 64 players, you're not really looking at the other team too much because there's so many players, but you want to know, am I influencing the match? It's kind of what this scoreboard is useful for also. If I'm playing Zenyatta, who is meant to be a healing damage dealer, am I doing enough damage? Now I can see that. And my teammates can see that. And if I'm not doing as much damage, perhaps it's because of the composition. Perhaps I'm just playing poorly. We have more information to deal with now, so we can all make adjustments. That's the point. And I think that's fantastic. All right, let's get into our apples to apples segments. The score currently, after 2 weeks, is David with 9, Noah with 10, and I have 10. I didn't know that. So, David, what have you been playing?
Well, I should not have bought a Steam Deck, mainly because
you're broke now, huh?
It's not the Steam Deck. It's all the random games that I find on sale that I own on 5 other platforms that I'm like, oh, but I might actually play this if I buy it on the Steam Deck.
It's all right. David came to us. David came to Noah and I asking for a loan so that way he could buy more games on Steam Deck. He obliged.
I've been playing a little bit. I am so mad at myself because I have not finished the reboot of the God of War series. I actually did a Let's Play on my YouTube channel and I got within like 2 hours of finishing it and then quit playing it. I'm so mad. So I'm trying to restart it on the Steam Deck.
Solid content creator. All right, here are my 3 words. Boy wonder, GOAT, greatest of all time, and trauma. Or like traumatic. Noah, what are your 3 words?
I got Gruff Dad Simulator 2018. The World Serpent looks a little smaller than I remember. And what if Thor: The Dark World was a good movie?
Noah just over here just putting sentences now.
Yeah, I got to.
All right, David, what do you choose?
I gotta go with Boy Wonder because
Yes!
I love. Really, it all boiled down to who was gonna use Boy, because
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite things. So when I did those streams, my dad and my brother would watch the VODs of them, and then they would just get a big laugh out of every time because I said that all the time as I was streaming. There's not enough words to say about God of War because it is just so flipping good. It's the one of the penultimate third person story games that Sony put out in that timeline where just in the PS4 where everything they put out felt like it was good. So there's nothing like throwing the Leviathan axe and then calling it back to you, or throwing it, pinning a guy, and then going and punching a guy up. They just have a handle on that action, and then the story is just so good, so much fun.
All right, Noah, what have you been playing?
I've been putting myself through the pain of Destiny 2 Grandmaster Nightfalls, which are, if you don't know, it's 25 power levels above what you were locked at, which is 1575, which means you have to grind a lot to even get to the level where you can play these things. And then they're basically just, you get destroyed in one hit by certain enemies and you suffer. And if your whole team dies, you have to restart from the very beginning. And that's what a Grandmaster Nightfall is. You have limited revives also. You can kill champions, which are like tougher enemies, and they give you revives back, but you still have a limited amount that you can even get throughout the whole thing. And yeah, I've been streaming those, having a blast.
Glad you're enjoying it. My 3 words are just give me raids. Hey, can I get a team? And give me that loot. David, what are your 3 words?
Mine are walking Twitch clip, chow me bro, and Destiny grind sessions.
I'm going to go with give me the loot because, man, the loot for these Nightfalls is very lucrative. It's not bad. It's just that there are some weeks where it's the worst. It's the hardest strike, even regardless of Nightfalls, regardless of it having more difficulty modifiers. But this week it was the Lightblade, and that strike is absolutely insane. It's a circular room at the end, the boss room, and there's 2 stories, and on the bottom story are a bunch of cursed thralls that all explode if you approach them, and they can jump up to the second story, and then meanwhile there's like 2 barrier knights, which are very hard to deal with enemies, and then there's light bearers, and then there's the actual boss. Oh yeah, there's the boss too. So, and then there's all these things.
By the way,
and you have to deal with all of it, and it's insane. We barely clutched it out, but doing it was really nice. I got some bad loot afterwards, but you always go back for it because you always want some more loot. You always want to see what you can get, and sometimes the loot is very good. But yeah, Grandmaster Nightfalls, you should try them out.
Yeah, that's where the hey, can I get a team comes in.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm nowhere near the light level for that. Been busy playing other things. I have been playing Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, which I thought was a game that released this year, so I checked it out on Game Pass. It was not. It was released last year, but it's only 3 hours, so I blasted through that, and it's interesting. Noah, what are your 3 words for me?
Well, prepare yourself for more sentences. But now that's a game I'll pass on. Really makes you feel like a tax evading turnip. And hey, did you hear the one about the turnip boy who committed tax evasion? Hopefully he'll turn up soon.
Ooh.
Goodness.
David,
Writing a novel over there.
I am.
What are your 3 paragraphs?
Your apples are longer than the game.
They are, yeah.
Okay. So, not cursing here, but WTF, white turnip fights. Retro veggies and hilarious.
I'm gonna go with hilarious. It's a simple one, but it is, I would say, pretty apropos to what I was feeling. It is funnier than I anticipated. The funniest part is, I don't see that this turnip has hands, but you play as a turnip, and you don't. It's not really a game about tax evasion. The game starts with you committing tax evasion, and then you do random stuff the rest of the game and have weird interactions with other vegetables and fruit and do different things. It's very much like a Zelda style game, but the things you do are pretty goofy. The funniest thing to me, though, is that any pieces of paper you find, you rip them up. And so what ends up happening is you get a summon, or not even a summon, but you get your notice about how much taxes you owe. And your options are read or rip. And so that's it. You can't keep. So the only way to move forward is you have to rip it. So you rip the thing. So then later on, I'm going through the game and I come across a person who gives me a letter to give to somebody else. And by this time, I've probably ripped up 2 or 3 other documents. And so I get the letter, and it's a pretty heavy letter. And it's like, can you please deliver this to this person? And I'm like, no, don't give it to me, because your only options are rip it up or read it. And so you rip it up, and her response is, that's rude. It's just this is so dumb. It's such a goofy gag, and they do it pretty brilliantly throughout the game, because you're just you come across these things that is just oh no, don't do it. Don't. So you're a jerk. But you're also, you're trying to play a hero at the same time. It's a goofy game. It's only 3 hours. I didn't expect it to be that short, so it ended up feeling more worth my time than I expected. I'm glad I played it. It was a goofy good time. Combat's not great, but the rest of it is good enough to carry you through. It's not that the combat is clunky or anything. It's just not that interesting. It's a boring version of what Zelda. Everything's easy to kill. There's not much to the combat itself. So that is the weakest part of the game. Everything else is pretty fun. David, what are you working on?
Well, I just finished up writing up the HyperX Pulse Fire Haste wireless mouse.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to get out there. It's a fantastic gaming mouse. I would recommend it to anyone. Very good budget mouse that can do just about anything except for Bluetooth, because they didn't include it, which helps the price be low. Beyond that, I've got a couple things in the fire that can't really talk about right now.
Fair enough. Noah?
I'm currently working on graduating, which is going to happen next Saturday, and I can't wait. And I can't wait to find a job. I'm excited for that too.
Part-timer's going to part-time on the Part-Timers podcast. I'm still working on a feature, just trying to get things together. It's slowly. I was sick for a week, if you can't tell by my face. So I am working on that slowly but surely. Hopefully I could get that out at some point. And that's what I'm working on right now. I got a few reviews that I have requested, so waiting on those as well. And this has been the Part-Timers podcast. I appreciate you watching and listening. We'll see you next week. Deuces.